my mate Zach and I wanted to see Australia. So we devised a plan to drive 14,000 kilometres across 7 of Australia's states and territories in just 6 weeks. And to make things a little more interesting, we'd be ditching our iPhones in favour of road maps and brick phones to hopefully connect a little more with the great outdoors. Among other things. We were looking forward to testing ourselves, finding out whether travelling really was better back in the day, and leaning on our extremely limited mechanical knowledge. We were hoping along the way we might meet some special people, see some special places, and connect a little more with the country we grew up in. So, why plan a trip like this? And why make it any harder than it needs to be? Well, off the back of nearly 2 years of COVID isolation measures, Zach and I just had itchy feet.
Because, it's one thing to travel across here, but
to go up through there is
that'd be pretty amazing.
In a period where exploring beyond your own backyard was pretty much off the table, planning a big adventure helped us stay sane. It meant the moment restrictions eased, we were ready to take off and see a little bit more of the country we were raised in. As for swapping out a device with everything you could need for navigation, communication, and entertainment for brick phones, we felt like we'd become totally dependent on those little devices in our pockets, but didn't necessarily know what to do about it. We were hoping an all-or-nothing approach might help us properly disconnect from the city, get a little bit more human interaction out of our trip, and possibly improve our basic navigation skills.
Are we going over the bridge for the symbolism of it?
I don't know how to get there through the bridge, so...
It didn't take long to get an idea of exactly what the next 6 weeks were going to look like. Reverting to a 12-button keyboard for texting, listening to an extremely limited range of audiobooks and throwback albums, and getting used to reading maps 50 times a day.
Oh, there's David Street.
No way!
Yeah. That's David Street. Let's go!
Fuck, we're not good at this.
We'd also be spending a majority of our nights camping.
So I've just completed the first day of the trip. A really good day, a really, really fun day. Crossing the first state border.
What a shitty sign!
It was very strange accidentally joining the Freedom Convoy.
Convoy for Freedom.
How have we ended up in the Convoy for Freedom?
Yeah, so it's been weird, but it's been a really, really good first day.
We also realised pretty quickly that it wasn't all going to be smooth sailing, and that we were really going to miss a few of the basics. Like being able to check the weather forecast for where we'd be setting up camp for the night.
We're in for it. Our thoughts at this point in time is that we're just going to have to sleep in the car.
Trying to text Leanne, whose farm we're staying on, later today that we're running late. And it's fair to say Zach's having a few problems with the Brit. You're not bothering.
On our way to Bensdale, thinking that the route we were going to take was going to be 3 hours, just looking at the distance and not realising that it was completely unsealed and completely cooked, and it ended up taking us almost 6 hours.
I've only been out here 3 days, and extremely tired. That's me signing off for day 3.
As much as we wanted to use the trip to disconnect from the city, we were also looking forward to meeting people we might not necessarily come across in our day-to-day lives. We jumped on a website called Farm Army, which connects volunteers with farmers who need help on their property.
Basically for those farmers that just have too much going on and whatever help they can get.
That took us to Bensdale, a small town in southeastern Victoria, and more specifically, that took us to Leanne.
We used to have city cousins and country cousins. My city cousins would come and stay here for 2 weeks and they'd see how hard it was, and I'd go to the city and see how scary it was. We don't do that anymore. So to have city cousins seek out what's happening in that community and learn and get an education, I think that's really big, so that we can swap those two cultures again. We've isolated the stuff from sitting around a table and talking. It's a great tool, the old phone, but you learn so much more by sitting down with a person.
It was humbling to hear just how involved Leanne is with her community. From food rescue initiatives to disaster relief to Rural Minds, a program aimed at tackling mental health in rural areas.
So Rural Minds started for me when the drought was on and I could see my fellow farmers really suffering. Mental health is a hard deal to sell to country people. You know, it's 9 o'clock at night, it's pitch dark and you're pulling a calf up there and it's a dead calf. How do you react to that emotional downput of pulling that dead calf? You know, I relate to that, I've done it.
What instantly struck us about Leanne was her willingness in whatever she's doing to educate others. Whether it be those in her local community, her fellow farmers, or a couple of blokes from the city trying to lob a tree.
Job well done.
Come out more. meet us and see. And yeah, we're not these awful, mean, nasty people that rape and pillage the land. We love this country and we know we want to hand it on better. I want to hand it on to my daughter better. Most farmers, we've got a minority, cross borders minority and everything. Most farmers are trying to do better with their land and their animals and everything, you know. Yeah.
Thank you.
Day 5, done and dusted. We left Bensdale to go to Melbourne via Wilson's Prom. We didn't really know how to get there. We didn't really know what to expect from it. And it ended up being absolutely breathtaking. Zacho and I are in Melbourne. We're heading on a night out. We've just realised that if we get lost, we have no way of getting home. Can't call a taxi because we don't know the number. It was really just fun to see the way that not having our phones was just starting a discussion. And we actually ended up meeting these guys, went out for dinner with them, and one of them drew us a map of kind of the blocks around where we're staying.
Basically, we've been using this napkin map to get around the streets of Melbourne.
Well, which way's north?
Well, we have...
As we made our way back inland, we were really starting to feel as though we were getting the hang of doing everything analog.
So it's day 7. We've just left Melbourne. We're on our way to my birthplace, Wodonga. Going to a campsite on the Murray River. See how we go there.
But a day that was meant to be as straightforward as any turned into one of our most challenging very quickly.
So we were driving from Melbourne to Wodonga, which was meant to be like a 3-hour drive.
It was all good, and then we just hit Struggle Street. Went via Wodonga into New South Wales, along the Murray back into Victoria,
I actually feel like we're heading in the right direction now.
Did a full loop trying to find our campsite. Finally located it.
Yes.
Oh my God.
King's Road!
When we started to get near it, the road was flooded and we couldn't pass.
I'm devastated. I don't want to talk to the camera.
Backed out, went to the BP, asked for directions to a campsite, got them. They were false. There was no campsite there. Went back into New South Wales, into Carrara, looking for directions to any campsite.
We're going back into Victoria, aren't we? Can't go back.
Hello, Victoria. It's been a long time.
Drove along a dirt road looking for a road that didn't exist.
Yeah, morale's low for me.
That's fair. And followed a completely different sign to finally find the campground we were looking for, which was completely different to what we came here looking for. What should have been a 3, maybe 4 hour trip from Melbourne to Wodonga ended up taking us 8, almost 9 hours. What are we doing? Why were we wasting so much time to put a bit of a dampener on the whole romantic side of not using phones and disconnecting from technology?
To 8 border crossings in a day.
This year.
And we didn't panic.
No, we didn't.
Maybe a little bit.
Just a little bit. All being said, look at where we're sitting right now.
Yeah. And the fact that nobody else is here is pretty amazing as well.
We need to get the ferry to Tasmania, so hopefully tomorrow brings a little bit more luck.
And then what?
68 metres, turn on to How Parade. That, which would have been that one.
Oh,
Interesting. Just U-turn here, just U-turn here.
Shit!
Oh, fuck you.
And then where?
Apparently it's 20...
Now, Zach and I are no stranger to planning things together. Whether they be weekends away or weekends at home, we've always enjoyed adventures big and small. So for as stressful as some days became, our sense of excitement always prevailed.
Nippy.
Where are we going, Zacko? And what's in Colonial Bar? Get out of it. Hey!
this.
I see.
So all I can say.
It's fair to say we were still experiencing a few teething issues with our methods of travel.
I made a mistake.
Like booking a hotel without the ability to read any reviews or see any photos.
Oh my god. This.
It looks.
Questionable.
Yeah.
Or heading to Bruny Island with a quarter tank and having no way of finding the single petrol station on the island.
We've hit a new high on the trip. Peanut butter sandwiches in the car. Yes, our petrol might run out at any second.
Yes, we could be stranded. Yes, we could die.
Till then, we're living the dream.
Or having to give up entirely on trying to find certain campsites.
We are literally so close. That's because we're literally camped on the side of this weird little road because we couldn't find our camping site. So
Ended up doing about 8 hours of driving, and for the second night in a row we were just driving through darkness for a lot of it. Probably a day that summed up the trip pretty well. Hours and hours of just breathtaking views and beautiful scenery, and then hours and hours of chaos.
That was a pretty devastating blow last night.
I love how we were like, yeah, we're not going to drive after dusk or before dawn, and we've just done both in the space of a few hours.
Alright, well, would you park? What do you reckon? It's just a turning circle.
I reckon this is a turning circle. But what do you mean closed?
Probably full.
Should we just suss it out?
I mean, it's pretty clear.
Like,
We just got to Cradle Mountain after a big last 24 hours or so. Last full day in Tasmania, and it just feels like this is the perfect way to wrap it off.
That last full day in Tassie really was a reminder that, despite some of the issues we'd faced, the feeling it was giving of totally leaving the chaos of the city behind us was well worth it.
so it's our last morning in Tasmania. Today we're getting the ferry back to the mainland. Met some really nice people, seen some incredible things, and excited to be cracking on with the Great Ocean Road.
If you need to amend or cancel your scheduled travel, fast run opening, press 2.
We're currently on our way to Devonport for the 9:50 service on Tuesday the 15th of February, and we've broken down just outside of Barrington. It would be great to know what our options are to reschedule. We were driving out of our campsite on the way to get the ferry from Tasmania to Melbourne. About 10 minutes into driving,
And I go to give the car more acceleration, and I realise that the car's not getting any faster. So I look down at the dashboard and see that the check engine light has come on. So we pull the car over.
and ended up breaking down in the middle of nowhere.
Like, this is the worst possible time for something like this to happen.
This wasn't just a problem because of our non-refundable and expensive ferry tickets, but if we missed this slot, there was no saying for sure when we'd be able to get back to the mainland with our car. And given we were already on an extremely tight schedule, this was a big problem.
The Toyota dealer's going to call you back.
Oh, the service centre, yeah.
Spirit of Tas opening hours are till 9 o'clock.
Of course.
We had less than an hour to get back on the road, drive to Devonport in peak hour, and get on the boat. It wasn't looking good.
So basically, I go and sit on the side of the road, and I just sit there because there's nothing we can do.
Hey, Zach.
Until the phone rang and we were put on to a local mechanic.
I get on the phone with Big Tony from Toyota Service Devonport. Hi, Tony. He says, okay, do you have a wrench, spanner, or something like that you can use to untighten a bolt?
Incredibly, we did have a wrench only because we found one at our campsite in Lake St. Clair. We were packing up our tents and found a wrench out of nowhere. If we hadn't found that wrench, we wouldn't have been able to work on the engine. We followed the mechanic's instructions and managed to get the car started again. I can't believe that.
We need to be on in the next 20 to 30 minutes.
It's going to be close.
Oh my god. I'd like to make a shout out to Big T. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be here, right?
Legend. I can't believe that.
Back to the mainland and to the world famous Great Ocean Road. For the first time since we'd left, we were taking things at a bit of a slower pace.
When you're out, tell you're looking.
As we approached the halfway mark of the trip, I think we were both starting to feel the effects of not being able to communicate with those back home as we normally would.
We're feeling very out of the loop with what's going on at home, just using our brick phones.
It felt odd not being able to share photos, memories, and moments with loved ones at an instant. It's still special to be able to share them with each other.
I mean, you can pour it out just so we agree on what we think the shot is, and everyone knows what they're playing for. Yep, okay, right. I think maybe that is why we do this.
This has gone about halfway down.
All right. Things like when I used to sit and scroll on Instagram or scroll through Facebook, things like that, just, I don't miss that. I miss being able to try and communicate with people, that's the thing.
That's a big boy.
The things we'd once found charming were starting to become a bit frustrating.
Hi, could I book a taxi?
Not a taxi. And I would say that this is probably the lowest I've felt throughout the whole trip.
But a few days on Kangaroo Island were about to reset our perspective.
Okay, awesome. Thanks very much, Jake.
We were still trying to take the opportunity where we could to learn a bit more about what's going on in other parts of the country.
Right, bye.
And Kangaroo Island, with its incredible nature and wildlife, seemed as good a place as any. That led us to the Western River Refuge and to Pat, a threatened species ecologist working on the island, which was ravaged by Australia's black summer bushfires.
Everyone knew that there was going to be fires that season, but no one could have anticipated the ferocity and how quick it happened as well. It burnt from the north to the south in a matter of hours, and then swung around to the south and then burnt back up to the north again. And that was just insane. And it just got to the point where everyone just expected the whole island was going to go. That's what everyone was predicting. My work is to protect threatened species, essentially, from all the different threats that they have. Here on Kangaroo Island, we've been working for threatened species here, of which we have a whole host of them, including the Kangaroo Island dunnart. Since the fires of 2019, 2020, our work has really intensified because the bushfires had a huge impact. The work we've been doing has involved a whole lot of feral cat management and control, and it's culminated in the amazing Western River Refuge feral cat exclusion fence, which is a big refuge where there's absolutely no feral cats, which is amazing. One of the big things with fire recovery, there was an injection of funds initially, but we've now got this huge amount of work still ahead of us. There's definitely organisations like Australian Wildlife Conservancy and Kangaroo Island Land for Wildlife that are always seeking kind of philanthropic donations. So if people do care about it, that any donation would be greatly achieved and will be put to use on ground, achieving conservation.
What we really noticed about the people of Kangaroo Island was how stoked they are about where they live. Every car we drove past gave us a wave, and it reminded us how lucky we are to have grown up in such a beautiful country.
I guess Kangaroo Island people, they're here because they love the island, being outside and camping and surfing and fishing and all of that. Just spreading the word about Kangaroo Island is just as important as anything else.
Once again, we were back on the mainland, and this time, to save some money, Zach and I took separate ferries. On the windiest and choppiest day of the year.
Took your sweet, sweet time.
Holy shit, mate. I've never seen that many people vomit in one place at one time. You might have been listening to music. I was serenaded by the sounds of the entire trip.
So we've left Kangaroo Island and now we're heading north towards the Flinders Ranges. Glad to be heading north, but definitely prepared for something very, very different. A lot of driving ahead, I think, but I think we're both ready for it, so should be good.
But we're back to racing against daylight to get to camp. I think we got on the road at 12 hours ago. That's when we left our campsite. There's 2 kilometres until the next turn off, and if it's not this, then by God are we in trouble.
I reckon it's got to be this.
It has to be.
It wasn't.
We thought we were making good time and then looked at the maps, looked at any instructions we'd tried to find out, and we just couldn't find our campsite. So we had to basically back into the nearest town and work out a plan.
Well, looks like we're wild camping again.
just set up camp for the night after a few hours on a ferry, driving all the way through Adelaide, all the way up to Flinders Ranges. So we've once again just pulled over and had to find camp somewhere because it's just gotten too late. But it's funny, I think we're both feeling so frustrated, but now we're kind of here, we're set up, and we're just looking around, and it's honestly unbelievable. When we'd spoken about wanting to get out of the city, this is what we were after. We had this moment where the night sky lit up with some kind of meteor, which Zach captured on this time lapse. Of all the nights we'd had nothing to do but sit, chat, and look at the sky, this night really felt like the one we'd been chasing. In any adventure, you've got your main objective. For us, that was completing the trip without relying on iPhones.
Let me tell you, you're gonna have to make some plans.
But you've also got your side quests.
It's doing that thing again, Jim.
Like trying to make sure you can close your window in 40-degree summer heat. Passenger window has gone from not closing properly to not closing, opening, or even being there at all, so that's good. Or attempting to summit as many iconic Australian peaks as possible. Or trying to find the best big brekkie in the whole country. Or even celebrating every state border crossing with a nip of whiskey. Whatever opportunities presented themselves, we tried to chase them. So we're in William Creek right now, and we're just getting ready to do a flight around Lake Ebb. So it is day 29. Apparently had night terrors. We don't have the most four-wheel driving.
We know what we're doing.
Do you have a message for all the fires watching?
We've killed 50% of your population and we're ready to do the next 50.
What's in your head?
This is actually my laundry bag. But $8.50 for a fly net when I've got a perfectly good system right here. Who's the sucker now?
Who's the sucker now?
We'd spoken about wanting to learn more about the country we grew up in. Yet we were ashamed to admit how little we knew of its rich pre-colonial history. And while we may have been using our arrival in Central Australia as a catalyst to learn more, conversation with Tim, a proud Palawa man, reminded us that we didn't need to drive thousands of kilometres from home to immerse ourselves in the history of this country's First Peoples.
If you think about Europe, and everyone knows the difference between French culture and German culture and Italian culture, there is equally as much difference between different Aboriginal nations, say the Palawa, the Yuin, the Wiradjuri. And lots of Australians don't know that. They think, if I've had an Aboriginal experience, that's it, it's all of them. But we've all got our own creation stories, we've all got our own cultures, we've all got our own languages, we've all got our own law. Lots of people think that an Aboriginal experience is going to be throwing a boomerang or like blowing the ditch, right? That's not what it is. Like, you've got so much breadth. The highest population of any Aboriginal people anywhere in Australia is in Western Sydney. So you can equally have an Aboriginal experience in this heart of Sydney, Hobart, Melbourne, as you could if you went to the outback. So I think it's more around changing Australians' perspectives to want to learn more about their own Aboriginal nation.
We tossed up whether or not to include this, at risk of it feeling tokenistic. But Tim's words have shaped the way we look at the very places where we grew up, and they felt important to share. After more than 5 weeks of travel, we'd left ourselves with 5 days to drive the 4,000 kilometres back home. And that journey was about to be made more difficult. You see, there were points in our trip where our remoteness, along with minimal reception and brick phones, meant we just had no idea what was going on in the rest of the world. While we were driving lost into the outback a week earlier, we were completely unaware that that very day, Russia had commenced its invasion of Ukraine, and the world was on edge. And as we began our journey east, we became more and more aware of events unfolding on our own doorstep.
The Prime Minister has acknowledged the anguish of flood victims in northern New South Wales who say they've been left to fend for themselves.
Today, for the first time, we got a glimpse of how bad the flooding's been on the east coast.
Hey Mum, it's me, just calling to check in and see how everything is going back home.
They don't have clean drinking water at the moment, but they're fine, thank God, but big few days ahead as well. We have no idea which roads are open and which roads are closed, and we've got no real way of knowing for sure. Without reception, with these phones, with road maps.
So the good news is, speaking to them, it should more or less all be open between here and Brisbane.
It's just starting to get a little bit, just a little bit sketchy. Only a little bit though. So after 40 odd days on the road, without phones, clear direction, or our sanity for a lot of it, it was time to come home.
What I've most learned is how easy it is to be friendly and help out, even if it's the smallest thing.
I don't think either of us wanted to come across like this trip had fundamentally changed who we are, but there were a few things that we couldn't ignore. Like how grateful we felt to have been able to explore the incredible continent we grew up in, to have met the people we met and had the opportunity to learn, to have been reminded how much we love this country and how important it is to look after it, and of course to have switched off more than we ever have in our lives from what often feels like an overwhelming world. And while the short-term habits we'd built, using road maps, texting with brick phones, and reading before bed instead of scrolling, didn't last long after returning to our realities, something much bigger did. We had thought the message of this trip was going to be how important it is to disconnect. But what we found was the opposite. When you really go right back to the basics, you realise what actually matters is connection. To the things you care about, to the place you call home, or maybe even to the person sat right next to you.